Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World. I'm your host, Sasha Farbach. Now, on Thursday in Rome, the Weimar Plus group, which includes France, Germany, and Poland, met alongside other key European partners like Italy, Spain, the UK, and Ukraine to discuss boosting European defense and backing for Kyiv. But as NATO pushes for higher military spending and the EU unveils ambitious investment plans, the questions remain. How realistic is this new level of commitment? And can these nations truly unite behind a shared vision for European security? Now, to help us unpack all these challenges and questions, we welcome Sébastien Maillard from the Jacques Delors Institute. Thank you so much for joining us here on TVP World.
Hello, dzień dobry.
Now, Sébastien, tell us, now the format, now we have Weimar Triangle, now it's a Weimar Plus. Tell us and give us your analysis of it. How effective is this format and bring any tangibles forward for European defense?
We are in a moment where we will see some of these new formats coming and going. You know, when the world order is shifting and even perhaps collapsing, you know, with the war in Ukraine, with the Trump administration in the US, the Russian threat, there is, of course, the old world order is collapsing in a way, and we don't really have a clear picture of what lies ahead. But it is in this kind of moment where I think diplomats tend to be creative of experiencing new needed formats which can be relevant in such moments of these earth-shattering movements inside the world international order. And you mentioned the Weimar. Traditionally, it was actually created in 1990, and it was France, Germany, and Poland after the end of the Cold War. And I think today we are this new format called so-called Weimar Plus, which includes Italy. It was actually yesterday the meeting with the foreign affairs ministers was hosted in Rome with Italy, Spain, the UK. And of course France, Germany, Poland. These format means that we need actually it's a way to gather the big players inside Europe, and it's also show that the Franco-German engine itself is not enough. It's necessary, but not enough to really take the lead inside the EU, and that also because of Brexit, but because we need a power such as the UK. There is a need to find a way outside the EU to bring the UK back in these European discussions. And I think it's really meaningful and a really relevant format to try to put the Europeans to speak with one voice regarding Ukraine. And much of yesterday's meeting in Rome was about Ukraine, was about defense. It was, of course, with the Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs and also with the NATO General Secretary. But it's difficult to find consensus and unanimity at 26. So that's why this level of Weimar Plus becomes relevant, also because we are talking about areas, you know, foreign affairs, defense, where the EU competence is quite limited. And so that's why these kind of formats at the level of states and the most meaningful states, the five that I've just named, can be sound and be more effective than a traditional institutional EU format.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And just briefly, I want to talk about, as you said, the format is key. Gives more closer connection to these bigger countries. Also, I think the first time in Weimar, at least, that Ukrainians were involved on that level as well. But what about this joint defense strategy? What specific measures have come out of this? What could come out of this? And how fast will this be in terms of all the other things that are happening with the European plans for rearmament, etc.? What can we see in the middle to long term here?
Well, the Weimar Plus itself hasn't any institutional bedrock which it can rely on. So if you read the statement that came out yesterday after these discussions, it actually hints to existing more solid institutions such as NATO, such as the EU, to strive this defense move and become more and stronger spending in this regard. I think that if the big challenge there is for these five big players to be committed and to rely on, for instance, existing initiatives such as the new safe regulation in the EU, which the UK also hopes to benefit from, thanks to a partnership with the EU in this regard. But the whole challenge for these countries is to really do this in a cooperative way, because it's useless to have a strong Polish defense on one side and a strong and a higher German spending on defense on the other side, and France also. I mean, we see everywhere, each country, including Italy, leveling up their own spending, national spending on defense. Mm-hmm. But if it's done separately, if it's done totally, each one on its side, it will of course lead to nowhere. So it's how to make the most of this common joint initiative to make it really a bold one, because we see that already now. I mean, if you add each national defense budget of the 27 member states of the EU, it's actually much greater than the Russian one. But the thing is that it's 27 different budgets, right? And so it's no idea of putting them all together, but at least to make them more interoperable, to do joint procurements. And that's all what the EU SAFE initiative is about. And it's also what the NATO framework is about. And I think there's this Weimar Plus format yesterday was to support strongly, give the political impetus to it needed to make it happen.
Yeah, but at the same time, I want to go into a different note here, but we've also want to make sure that we mention the Italian side that's saying that they need that decades-long plan, really. They didn't seem as excited about the 5% for the defense one. Yeah. So I just want to get your take on that briefly, because I want to go into another area.
Well, it's true that not every country is domestically so excited about increasing defense spending. It's a debate in Italy because the Russian threat is not perceived as perhaps as obvious as, for instance, a country like Poland or the Baltic states. The population there is quite divided, so Giorgia Meloni has to be very careful on the way it will expand this defense, knowing that it's not a popular move. And in other countries, like in the UK, where I am, also the fear that this spending could be done to the detriment of social spending. So yes, it's a trade-off that is difficult for each politician in each country to do. And a country like Italy is really, and also France, which are very have a high debt, are looking forward to perhaps more European-driven initiatives to raise the resources, the money, the fresh money needed that they cannot spend themselves.
Yeah, and that will be interesting to see what happens at the Hague summit for NATO. I'm sure we'll hear more on that. But speaking of threats, we talked about Ukraine, the dangers by Russia. Let's also come to the developing story of what happened with the strikes by the Israelis on Iran as well. This is something that we're following, of course. This is another very breaking story. Since then, also, Iran has retaliated with another 100 drones against Israel. I just want to play really quickly a clip here by the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, what he said about these operations. Let's listen to that now.
Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival.
Right, of course, we have this developing story. I just want to get your take. I mean, we hear words there. It's about Israel's very survival. Continue as many days as it takes to remove that threat. Powerful words there. What's the European response going to be now? What is Europe and the EU going to do as this conflict potentially may escalate?
We'll see if the upcoming European Council at the end of the month will probably address this big international issue. But when it comes to Israel, we see that the bloc of the EU27 is clearly divided, and even more so, this strikes against Iran come at a moment where Israel is already very on the edge of being really regarded as a very difficult partner for the EU. We know that there are some states like Ireland, for instance, or Spain that are very much more supportive of and have already recognized Palestine, the state the state in its own right. France is may this month in New York soon also recognize Palestine as a state, and some other countries like the UK, for instance, which is not in the EU, but which is also an important country when it comes to diplomatic relations, has called for the dismissal of some of the most extremist Israeli ministers. So it will be, I think, difficult for the EU to speak with one voice on such with regards to Israel, because even a country like Germany is now a bit in a difficult position to really be supportive of what the Netanyahu government is doing. This
on that front,
at the moment,
it will be, as you said, a very challenging position for European allies, for much of the other parts of the world to observe this as we see these terrible scenes out of Israel and Iran. We'll conclude it there. Sébastien Maillard was our guest. Thank you for the analysis. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks. But stay tuned. Much more coming up right here on TVP World. Goodbye.